Every person has something that remains with them forever. For most Ukrainians, it will be the spring of 2014, the first April of the war. Events developed very rapidly at the time, but no one could imagine that the seizure of the city police department in Slavyansk would mark the beginning of an intervention. When rumors spread among the local population that tanks were going into the city, many just dismissed that, saying that the streets there were too narrow for tanks to go through. And anyway, what war could there be in 2014? But an armed group of militants captured the city, after which acting President Alexander Turchinov announced the start of the anti-terrorist operation in Ukraine. Many men were mobilized and sent to the front. The main burden was assumed by the armed forces of Ukraine, but a lot of volunteers also stood up to fight. They were not always prepared for military actions, neither morally nor physically, but they had a great desire to defend their homeland. I had a choice between Azov and the armed forces. I chose the army, went to the military enlistment office, said, "Hello, I came to fight. Write me down. Who is the first to go to war?" Everyone was in patriotic mood, and if they were told to, they'd go into battle, just like in the movies. However, the soldiers did not know then that a real war is completely different from its film version. War is nothing like you imagine it. It is a different world. There are no points of intersection with what is here. Different people with different views, different feelings and attitudes toward life. What stayed here seemed like something that existed separately in the parallel universe. When a person goes to war, they accept a number of conditions and realities that are inherent in a soldier's life. They get used to the world in which they must constantly be in danger. I went out to drink some coffee on the porch, and a shell exploded 200 meters away from me, taking half the roof together with it. The military have hundreds of such situations and stories. There, they often have to be under fire, sit in trenches for weeks on end without water, food, and risking their lives. We had one route along the river Seversky Donets. Us and other guys used to follow the route from time to time. There's a path with thickets on both sides along the way, and there's a fallen tree lying across it. To climb over it, we had to step between its branches, and it was positioned in such a way that we had to step in exactly the same place every time over the course of a couple months. It was in winter. When the snow thawed, we found a booby trap under the tree. It was simply frozen. We got lucky. But not everyone gets lucky. Some will never come back from there. Some return with disabilities, and the rest come back in a state of the deepest stress. It manifests in everyone in different ways, but the essence of it is that it's very difficult to adapt to a peaceful life. The first symptoms are more like a normal depression, obsessive vivid memories, often recurring in dreams, a constant sense of anxiety, irritability, and increased sensitivity to events that resemble the experienced stress. I cannot consider war an excuse for spiritual and personal growth. The war will either ruin you or harden and make you stronger, tougher. Not everyone thinks of what the war can do to a person's soul. Very often, after returning back home, the soldier gets told that he returned a different person. So he shuts in, seeks solitude from relatives, or tries to leave home altogether. Not because he became a stranger, but because he instinctively seeks shelter after bombing. Even from those who only want to console him. And then the caring relatives come to a psychologist and ask them to help the veteran and make him like he was before, not realizing that he will never be like that again.
Приходять інколи нам, наприклад, матері, от, врятуйте мого сина.
Sometimes mothers come and start begging me to save their son, who quit his job and cut all contact with his girlfriend because the war changed him. That happens because they realize that they only have one life.
А чому так відбувається? Тому що вони усвідомили, що життя одне.
And they must give up their dreams and follow the road they were forced to step on.
Якимось коридором, який мені там хтось нав'язав.
Of course, renouncing the generally accepted line of conduct, the soldier puzzles others. It was especially difficult for those who were in the first wave of demobilization. Ukraine had no experience in rehabilitation and adaptation of such fighters to a peaceful life at the time, and there were problems that needed solving.
Первое, что было сделано, это использование.
The first thing that was done was the use of the resource of psychological university students.
Психологических вузов. На то время это было лучшее, что мы могли сделать.
At that time, that was the best we could do. But that created another issue. A lot of mistakes were made. Many people traumatized and harmed, both among the soldiers and the psychologists themselves. We were not ready for large-scale work with PTSD.
Мы не были готовы так массово к работе с травмой.
Upon reaching a dead end, the state started adopting the developments of other countries. They worked with Israeli, American, and Georgian specialists. After all, those countries have years of experience in soldier rehabilitation.
Ми прийняли таку програму, як «Рівний рівному».
We have borrowed the peer-to-peer program from the United States. This one, veterans are helped with adaptation by also veterans who went through the same a little earlier.
Тобто, коли ветеранам адаптуватися, допомагають такі самі ветерани. Просто вони цей шлях пройшли трошки раніше.
Ukraine has received a unique experience in adaptation because we start working with soldiers already during the war. Public and international organizations are trying to help veterans to adapt to society in every possible way so that they can fully return to peaceful life. But the main condition is that a person must themselves realize that they need the help of a specialist and accept it.
Ми, коли потрапляли в складну ситуацію на війні, от якийсь там вінторез такий жорсткий, да?
When we found ourselves in a difficult situation in the war, when we were surrounded in a cold room, what did we do? We called for support. We said that we really needed help, that we wouldn't make it on our own, and the help came. If you end up in a difficult situation, call for help, and it will come.
Тут, в складній ситуації, викликайте підмогу. Тут же. І вона прийде.
Support in the form of a psychologist is not shameful as many people wrongly believe. On the contrary, the sooner you ask for help, the easier it will be later. Specialists supply various methods of countering post-traumatic conditions, and one of them is art therapy. With the help of drawings, people are taught to work with their fears and pain, control their emotions, and manage them. The more imaginative a soldier is, the better the result will be.
Сідаємо і просто думаємо,
First, we sit down and think about what do they want to do, what is their dream, and we draw that dream. We think about what they need for the dream to come true. The owner of the store, veteran Serhiy Rehman, was convinced that this technique is very effective by his own experience. It helps to work out the thoughts and feelings that people usually suppress, and even to set goals for the future.
Я рисовал на листике, как будет выглядеть магазин. Еще не было никаких помещений.
I drew what my store would look like. There were no rooms, but I had already been drawing how I wanted the shelves to be arranged, making lists of what good I wanted to sell. I thought about how I wanted to talk to people, and all of it was new for me, and I made it up myself.
И это все для меня было новое, я это сочинял.
Volodymyr Dmitriev, call sign Fidel, tells about his methods of adaptation to peaceful life. Before the war, he was a massier. After returning from the ATO, he realized that he could not continue working by profession. Friends advised him to do something for the soul. While he was at home, he started making various appliances from wood. Suddenly, he noticed that such work soothed him and made him feel happy. That's a nice board. It was a good idea to carve the handle from a gnarl at the edge. The product is ready for loading and sending to Valencia. Fidel says that wood positively influences the nervous system, normalizes blood pressure, and brings a sense of calm. Working with it develops motor skills of the hands, and the products that he makes are a cause for pride.
У тебя нет времени вообще на любую высшую нервную деятельность. Ты спокойно себе стоишь, у тебя все...
You have no time for any nervous activity at all. You just stand there, concentrated, and you work. That takes the load off your mind. It helps you to not remember. The time when the central nervous system does not overload itself is the time of rehabilitation.
Центральная нервная себя сама не накручивает. Это и есть время реабилитации.
This is another ATO veteran who claims to be sewing the best men's underwear in the world. Alexander Matyash says he approaches his work with love. This allows him to forget about depression. He made up his mind about what would help him to rehabilitate back when he was in the ATO. When we were rotating with the first company, it was very hot, 40 degrees in the shade. My underwear rubbed against my skin really bad, and white socks was a huge problem at the time. My and my friend's underwear got so uncomfortable we could hardly walk the next day. Therefore, after returning, Alexander decided that if there is demand, there is no reason not to try. Only then he realized that sewing calms the nerves really well, and in some cases even relieves headaches. Now Alexander calls his job the work of his whole life. I could never imagine that I'd be doing this, and that it would bring me pleasure. Matyash says that work is like a home dressing gown or favorite slippers. When you put them on, it's easy and comfortable for you. Occupational therapy is very important for any person, and when your work is duly appreciated, it becomes doubly more pleasant.
Я как-то путешествовал по Вьетнаму, попал в
I
небольшой...
once traveled Vietnam, got into a small traffic accident, my motorcycle rolled over, and I went into a long skid across the asphalt on my butt. Everything got holes in it, but the underpants was the only thing that remained intact.
Только трусы.
Доведеться зізнатися, в мене також є.
I have to admit, I also have a pair. I use them as pajamas. Many of my friends do too. In the summer, I wear them as shorts. They're really nice. So what can I say? We took the underpants from the guys.
Взагалі вони такі круті. Ну що тут скажеш, так, забрали у хлопців труси.
Alexander smiles. The reviews of satisfied customers is evidence that he does his job well, and that is an incentive to take up new beginnings. It makes you want to develop and become better at what you do. After all, what we do determines the meaning of our existence and replaces negative thoughts with positive emotions. Psychologists say that there is happiness. It is different in your favorite work, family, hobby. Everyone must determine where to look for it on their own. But first you need to find yourself.
Для начала определить себя. Найти себя.
You need to figure yourself out first. You have to stop for a moment and remember where you saw yourself the last time.
То есть,
That is, where do you remember yourself as happy or sad? What has passed?
я радостный, я печальный, я зол, я груб или я весел. То, что
There were a lot of emotions, but the brightest are ahead. And that's where you have to start. You start doing things differently in your life. That's where you begin.
Самое яркое все же еще пока что там. Вот с этого места можно начинать.
You can start with habits that relate to maintaining inner peace, personal development, attention, and concentration. The best thing to do is to take care of yourself first, without thinking about work, projects, requirements, and other people. And then you will notice how life starts to change for the better.